Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. You know, what different businesses can do given COVID-19 and our pandemic and our lockdowns, et cetera, has been the topic that I think a lot of us have been focused on. And I ran across Ian McLean, who is the president and CEO of the Cambridge, Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. He's also the chair of the Finance and Strategic Planning Committee of the Waterloo City Council, and he's chair of McLean and Associates. He and the board, the Chamber of Commerce, have been working on an interesting pilot strategy to get rapid testing kits out to business, and thinks that that's potentially a real solution to getting people back on the job. So, Ian, welcome to our show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. So tell me, what is this? You've got rapid kits and you're using them in the chamber, but you're also using them and you're providing them free to local businesses?
Yeah, so actually it's a partnership of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, my colleague Greg DeRocher and his staff, and my staff here in Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce came together and have been working with other partners from across not only the region, so Communitech, the region of Waterloo, but also the province and the federal government. So one of the things that we've been trying, and a lot of people have been trying since we've been calling for it as a business community here in Waterloo region, our two chambers, Communitech, which is the high-tech organization, and Waterloo Economic Development Corporation, founded at the beginning of this pandemic something called the Business Economic Support Team of Waterloo Region. And so the four business organizations have been trying to say, here are some of the things that you can do to help business get through this, but also in some ways asking what are some of the tools that business should be allowed to use so that they can be part of the solution. So we've been calling on rapid screening since last May. One of the difficulties and why it hasn't been more fully adopted across the province is these what they're called the Abbott screening, rapid screening kits. Up until about 3 weeks ago in the province of Ontario, you had to be a medical professional to administer these kits, these testing kits. Brian, all I would tell you is a well-trained basset hound could administer these tests. And so when the province made the change that said that you can self-administer these tests with some, you'd have to watch a how-to guide, but it's not complicated. That really sort of broke the logjam. Greg, my colleague Greg DeRocher, and I working with some folks said, hey, we want to get this directly out to businesses in their workplace because they, of course, want more tools that they can safely reopen. So we worked together, the two of us. We had a launch a week ago last Tuesday at 4:30 in the afternoon. We had 3,500 of these kits to help get us started because we had no idea how popular it was going to be or how it would go. We opened our joint website, which is called chambercheck.ca, and that's for if people want to see how the program works, they can do it there. And so we launched that at 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning. All 3,500 kits were spoken for by 10 o'clock.
Awesome.
So we've ramped it up since then. We got more kits because we in partnership with the province and the feds. Up to date, I mean, the latest information I have, Brian, as of us recording this, is over 750 businesses have registered. We've got something in the order of 60,000 kits now into the marketplace in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and the 4 townships that we represent. And the exciting part about this is not only are we benefiting from that here, and remember, for your listeners, this program, the testing kits are free of charge. They're probably about $10 a piece. They're free of charge to any small business who wants to participate. And so
$10 per one person, per one test?
Yeah, per kit. I think it may scale down from that, but it's roughly $10 per testing kit.
And give us a sense. What is it? Is it like a little swab you put in your mouth or nose or what?
It's for people, like if you've seen through this pandemic when people are going to get the full PCR test where you have to go in through the nose and you're going, looks way back. This one is about a centimeter or 2 centimeters into your nostril. So you're just going up the side of both nostrils, swirling around, small, a little bit of antigen fluid or activator, swishing it around. And it's a little plastic screening, I don't know, like 2 centimeters by 4 centimeters. You put a couple of drops in there and wait 10 minutes and it gives you your screen. And it's really accurate, actually. And it will tell you.
This isn't going to be something that's useful for people that are coming to a place of like a store or something like that, because it's going to take too long. But it could be for employees.
No, I think that I would say that's not the prime use for this. The prime use for this is for an employer to screen a couple of times a week, and that's what we're advocating, is 2 times a week screening all of your employees. It doesn't take long. When you do it right in the workplace, you can do it just before the shift starts. If you're finding, and remember, these kits are for those that are asymptomatic, meaning you and I are both feeling well today, Brian, but if we go into a workplace, we should be taking it even though we feel well, because what we know about the virus now is something north of 55% of all transmission happens from an asymptomatic, meaning someone who feels well, but has got the virus and is shedding that. So this is really
55% is spreading from asymptomatic people.
Yeah.
That's wow. That's incredible.
So that's really important. Why this rapid screening in the workplace is so important. And so we're really thrilled that the business community, and we've heard the stories of people saying, "Thank God, we've been looking for something that we can feel good about." And our staff are worried about going to work, so they can feel confident that they're not taking it home. That we have more of a sense of finding this early. Now, one of the other pieces that happened.
Let me interrupt you.
Sure.
We're going to take a break for some messages. We're chatting tonight with Ian McLean, who is the president and CEO of the Cambridge and Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Ian in just a minute, talking about what the Chamber of Commerce and Ian are doing in regards to getting rapid testing kits out into the business community so employers can use it to make sure that their employee workforce are healthy. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're talking tonight about rapid testing kits for COVID-19. Our guest is Ian McLean. He is the president and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. I mistakenly thought he was also of Cambridge. He's about to take it over, but not quite yet. He tells me that he's just in partnership with the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce in their efforts right now. Frankly, I think that regional governance is an issue we should be talking about. And I think boards of trades, Chamber of Commerces should be growing, but that's a different conversation than we're going to have tonight, Ian. I also said he was chair of the Finance and Strategic Planning Committee of the Waterloo City Council, and he quickly interrupted me and said that he's no longer a city councillor. Why is that, sir?
Well, both Greg and I, my colleague who's the president of the Cambridge Chamber, and I were both former city councillors. He took over about 20 years ago at his chamber. I took over about 10 years ago. I come from a political background. My dad was an MP here in Waterloo for 15 years, and I love politics, but I enjoyed my 7 years, but I felt like I might be able to do even more from the vantage point that I have of helping business and trying to make that connection between decision makers and what business is doing, because I also have a long history in running my own business and being in large and small enterprise.
And so what you're saying is you think you can make more of a contribution in business than you could on council?
Some days it feels like I can get more done as a through the Chamber of Commerce than I could on city council. So it's I respect both sides of it, but I've really enjoyed the opportunity to make a difference doing what I do at the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, that's interesting. So let's go back to our discussion of the kits. So tell me, you're in partnership with Cambridge. You're rolling these kits out, and you said that you had them all taken and spoken for, right away when you announced this project. How are you getting the message out?
A lot of it's word of mouth. We did, and I would say a couple of things have happened in the last week. When we did our our soft launch, if you will, a week ago Tuesday, we did have CTV and we did have newspapers and various people covering it, but we did a lot of this just through our own social media and through our own channels amongst our own membership base. But also we have been working on behalf of every business during this pandemic, member or not. And so there was a huge appetite for this. The second thing that happened last week, which it was good luck or dumb luck, good luck, good happenstance, a local PPE manufacturer that produces level 3 ASTM medical grade masks called Eclipse Automation, great company in town, made a donation of $1.5 million medical grade masks to the business community. And so through us, we're not only allowing or getting people to register, businesses to register for these rapid screening kits. But we also now pair them together with these medical grade masks. So when people are getting free masks and free testing kits, it's making a difference. And they're all many, especially the small and medium-sized businesses, are hurting. But they also know that these are two things they can have some control in a very uncontrollable environment right now. I would say masks is a huge part, and we've been calling on this from the province through the Business Economic Support Team, Greg and I, for months now, of saying we have to do more on masking. A cloth mask is a weak substitute for having a medical grade mask. And I guess one of the things we'd say, just like rapid screening will allow us to identify when there's illness or the COVID in the workplace and be able to contain it, get people into the health system and not have it spread. A cloth mask, two-ply cloth mask, maybe about 10 to 15% efficient. The masks that we got from Eclipse Automation are north of 90% when worn properly.
Sorry, I apologize. You're saying that the typical cloth mask is 10 to 15% efficient?
No,
Seriously?
It's a very poor substitute. And what we do know we didn't know that last spring, because for a long time we didn't even say that masks were needed until we understood that it was airborne. What we know now is that it's airborne almost exclusively, and that the transmission comes, it's coming from your mouth and it's coming through the air. And so we should be doing more on masks. We've made that argument before. How we're doing it is we're just living what we talk about. We've got this donation. We're giving away these masks. We're encouraging all of our members and every business in Waterloo Region to say, do your part. Let's show that business can lead by doing rapid screening in the workplace and by wearing medical grade masks for your employees and your staff to keep yourself safe. So, the fact of the matter is that business is looking for new tools. We're in the third lockdown. After the first two, not one new thing was put in place by anybody, by the province, by the feds, by the region, or the cities. No one did.
They closed down playgrounds.
Well, look, the fact is that trying to strike the balance, they don't envy being an elected official, but the fact is there was no new tools. And we knew that if we did better masking, some of us did, and we're advocating for it, better masks and better screening, rapid screening and contact tracing, and of course, vaccines. So what we do know now is we've got 4 more weeks or 5 more weeks of shutdown. We better come out of this at the end of April, middle of May, end of May, with new tools. And then what we're trying to do is to say, we've got a model that works. Now, I would say to you, Brian, when we launched this, we've had north of 35 of our colleagues from across the province in the Ontario Chamber network. And there's about 140 chambers across the province already who have said, tell us how to do it. We'll do it in our community too. So the Chamber network is mobilizing. Greg and his team have done a fantastic job. They put a how-to guide. We're getting the kits all sorted through so that it's plug and play. And we expect that this program of giving masks and rapid screening will be activated and right across the province of Ontario in all corners of the province within a couple of weeks. And so that's what we're really pleased about.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. But frankly, it would almost be good if you could compare yourself to another community of a similar size with similar kind of workplaces that doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And hopefully see that the infection rate, the ICU rate, the mortality rate, et cetera, is dramatically different. That would be the best.
Well, I think that we just have to do, one of the things that our Best Waterloo, this Business Economic Support Team, have done, we've really done a lot of work on thinking about this in terms of how we support business. We actually went back and read the SARS report, who the Chief Justice, or one of the Chief Justice of the Ontario Supreme Court, wrote after the SARS outbreak and said, one of the things that you really need to be looking at is the precautionary principle, and say, if your eyes are telling you something's happening, and you can make a difference by doing small, realistic, bite-sized chunks, do it. Don't wait for a peer-reviewed 17-time study, what the HA, whoever, if you know it's working, do it. And we know that masks work, and we know that serial screening, and this screening is, you got to do it not once a week, do it a couple times a week, so you can identify when COVID's in your workplace. We know that those make a difference, and we know that those small things in every workplace will make a difference. So frankly, I'm not prepared to wait to prove that it does. We know that it will. We just know that if every community takes part in what we're doing and we get these into small and medium-sized business and people wear these medical grade masks, what's going to happen is we'll come out of this lockdown in better shape, and we'll get to the point where between vaccinations, rapid screening, and better masks, we'll be able to open the economy and stay open this time.
Okay, I hear you, but it would also be good week by week to track how many infections you get in places of employment versus, I don't know, Mississauga or London or Brampton or some other city where they're not following what you're suggesting. And, we've had, as you undoubtedly know, huge amounts of infection in warehouses in Peel region. And they're checking temperature every day, and they're asking people COVID questions as they enter. But clearly, that's not enough, and the testing is key. Let me. So this 15 minutes while you're waiting for the test, do you start work, or are you isolated until you get?
Well, I think frankly, it doesn't even take 15 minutes from the start of when you. I mean, what we're recommending, and for many of these places, is the staff come in, and when they're coming in to start, maybe through the lunchroom or whatever, they do this rapid screening. I would say that it is fast enough that it should be done at the beginning of your shift before you're really intermingling in the rest of your workplace or interacting with folks. And it really is. It is very simple. And I say this not to be facetious. It's actually true. A well-trained basset hound could do this test.
Okay. But Ian, then what are you telling people? Send the people home?
No. What happens is because this is, you can't obligate a staff member to take it. Number one. Number two, it's once they get if they get a presumptive, they call it a presumptive positive, you would say, please go home, because you obviously don't want them in your workplace if there's a chance that they're spreading COVID. And we have information that would say, here's public health phone numbers, and you should contact public health, and they would immediately want you to come in and do a full PCR test so that you can find out.
What's your advice to your companies as to whether they should be paying sick pay or what? That's one of the big issues, obviously, in the Ontario legislature right now.
Look, there's a federal program, and honestly, I mean, if you're an employer that is not going to take advantage of whatever the program is that the feds have and wait for them to arm wrestle between Queen's Park and the opposition of whether they're going to have it or not, and you want a sick worker in your workplace, it's not the choice I would make. And
I agree. I agree completely. But you're saying the employer should take the hit, which I agree with, because they don't want the sick person in the workplace. But should the employee take a hit? I don't think so.
Look. No. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you're an employer and you're doing this screening in your workplace, one would presume that you're trying to find out who's sick in your workplace and that you want them to go home so they're not infecting the rest of your folks. I take it that if you're going into this program, that would be your natural conclusion. The fact is, there is a federal program. I'm the first one to say none of the feds, the province, no one's got it right, but everyone's trying their best. So, but because things aren't, seamless, doesn't mean that you shouldn't try new things. And again, this is part of that precautionary principle. I'm leaving out that for the time being. I'll tell you what I would do as an employer, and this is what I am doing with mine. We're all working at home, but when we come back, we'll do this screening up until the point that public health, there's very minimal risk. And if someone was to do this testing and they had any kind of sense that a false positive, I would say, please go home, take care of yourself, be in touch with public health, and get a full test. And it's not an issue from me as an employer of the Chamber of Commerce. I have 17 staff. I would make sure I wouldn't want any of the others to be put at risk. So
Ian, good luck with your pilot, and please get back to us on how successful you are.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back in a couple of weeks, because I'd like to report how many places across the province are doing it in addition to Waterloo Region.
Thank you. Let me ask you another question, if I could, while I got you.
Sure.
Small and medium-sized businesses are being killed with these lockdowns. What are you telling your I think a lot of small and medium-sized businesses are members of the chambers. What are you telling them?
Well, I mean, and I think this is one of the realities is our membership base reflects soup to nuts. We have everything from small to big and everything in between. We've been advocating for all of our members to take advantage of every program that might be available, even though sometimes they can be complex and sometimes you can be told no on these cash flow support programs. We're doing things, again, through Chamber Check, where we're doing an Ask the Expert when you're running into trouble, to ask the questions and keep fighting, because cash is king right now. That's going to be the difference between many businesses making it through to the other side and not making it through. So we're just suggesting them take advantage of these programs. And one of the things we have been doing and advocate, folks, is people have to make that pivot of how they can do business, especially in retail and restaurant, and do those curbside and other pieces of business that can keep them, at least some cash coming in the door. But I tell you what, one of the pieces that chambers do, in addition to doing things like rapid screening and giving away masks, and we do networking events, is we do advocacy. And we're going to be there for any business that's still going after this is all over, and say, you've given away money in loans, but people's balance sheets will prevent them from really growing and increasing their job creation and being part of the solution. So we're going to be talking to the government about whether some of these, what are at this point loans, whether they become forgivable loans. Because
I had a local restaurateur on my show, and he said he's shut down as much as he can. He's laid off what he can, who he can. He's kept who he can. He's gotten all the government wage subsidies and rent subsidies and other things that he can, and he's still losing $10,000 a week. And he says, Brian, start adding up the numbers. $10,000 a week is like a big whack of extra debt that I wasn't planning on. It's going to be a millstone around my neck for the rest of my life. What should I do? What do you tell a guy like that?
Well, I mean, everyone's got to make their own individual choice, but I can tell you what we have been saying, and then sometimes I hear this from bureaucrats, senior bureaucrats, in particular Ottawa and Queen's Park, who say, well, some of these businesses might have been on the edge to begin with. I say, you know what? Most businesses are not, geez, I'm starting in business so I can go from 5 employees to 10 to 50, because you know what it is? It's their livelihood. It's the family restaurant. It's the family dry cleaner. It's someone who, it's their job. It's their livelihood. It's how they, so the fact is, what you're asking them to do is to say, give up on their livelihood, not just a job, and then all the jobs that spin off of that. So I'm very cautious about saying that don't assume that there's going to be a whole long lineup of new entrepreneurs coming at the end of this if you don't help the entrepreneurs that have already invested and sacrificed to start their own business in all of our communities, in Waterloo and Kitchener and Cambridge, where you are in Mississauga and Brampton, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be very cautious about how they were treated and what their chances are of success. So this is not something to be taken lightly. And what we will be doing is fighting and supporting small businesses and saying, what's the support that government needs to do, not only during the crisis period, which we're in right now, but what are the things that we're going to need to do when we emerge from the crisis and in the recovery part? And part of that is going to be, how do we manage the massive amounts of debt that these small businesses and these entrepreneurs have taken on. So we've got strong advocates with Parent Beatty and the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, Rocco Rossi at the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, and certainly Greg and I are beating this drum and have been for 13 months of recovery or crisis to recovery and how we support small business. So what I tell those small businesses, if you're prepared to put your shoulder to the wheel and keep making the sacrifices and taking a chance, we'll be there with you, making the argument to government about how they can support you so you can emerge as a small business owner, to keep our communities, our downtowns, productive and thriving.
Well, Ian McLean, president of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce, I encourage you to advocate exactly as you've been describing. I think that if we don't support these small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, we're not going to have the main streets that we love. We're not going to have the local photographer, the local mechanic, the local whatever it is, and we're going to accelerate this trend to big businesses and global businesses and American-owned businesses that appears to have been happening. And so I think that the role that you and Greg and Perrin Beatty and Rocco Rossi played to support small and medium-sized businesses has never, ever been more important. So please do it.
Well, as we say to finish off, we hope everyone stays positive, tests negative, and that we're stronger together. So good luck to everyone, and know that your local Chamber of Commerce will be there fighting for you.
That's Ian McLean, president of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce, talking about his pilot test of test kits and masks that are of far higher quality than the regular cloth masks. We're going to talk to you again, Ian. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Stay around, and we're going to come back with another interview in just a minute.